Hey, welcome to the demo of AttackForge.com for Black Hat Asia Arsenal 2020. My name's Phil, and I'm the co-creator of AttackForge.
I'm Stas. I'm also a co-creator of AttackForge. AttackForge is a free-to-use platform to help you run your pen test and collaborate with your teams. Today, Phil and I are going to show you how to run your pen test on AttackForge. We'll start with normal, usual things: defining the scope, inviting your team, adding and importing vulnerabilities, and also generating reports on demand. As a reminder, we have a live chat session open, so please ask any questions as we go. We're here to help answer any queries you may have. Let's start the demo. Over to you, Phil.
Thanks, Stas. Let's begin. So let's imagine you're about to perform a web application pen test. Let's show you how to do it in AttackForge. So we're going to click on Projects in the menu, and then we're going to click on Create New Project. This now provides a form we can fill in to create a new pen test. The first thing we want to do is enter in the project name. In this case, let's say it's the Wayne Enterprises Bat Portal pen test. Then we can enter in a project code for tracking. Next, we can enter in the test window that this pen test will be performed in. Now we can select the scoring system. AttackForge supports CVSS version 3.1. We're going to stick with the baseline scoring for this project. Now we have Lucius Fox and Bilbo Baggins, who are both going to be joining us on our journey for this pen test. Lucius Fox is going to be our client, and Bilbo Baggins is going to be a pen tester. Lucius Fox has asked that we inform him immediately when there's new critical and high vulnerabilities. So let's go ahead and set the notifications for that. Now we're going to select the methodology that's going to be assigned to this project that we're going to work through. Considering it's a web application pen test, let's stick with OWASP ASVS. And now we can add the scope for this assessment. Now, considering it's a web application pen test, let's go ahead and enter in the URL for the application. And now we're going to click Create New Project. So now that our project's been created, the next thing we want to do is invite our project team. So from the menu, we're going to select Manage Access. Here we can see everyone who's on our project team. Now we want to click Grant Access to User to invite a new person to our project. We're going to enter in the email address for Bilbo Baggins, who of course is the most famous burglar, as a pen tester on this project. We're going to assign Bilbo with edit access to this project, which will allow him to have a pen tester role. And we're going to click Submit to invite Bilbo to this project. We can see that Bilbo now has access, and he will receive an email notification to let him know that he's been invited. We also want to invite Lucius Fox to this project as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we're going to give Lucius view access to this project, which is mainly for customers and clients. So now we've invited our project team, so we can move on and get ready for the pen test to take place. So now that we've invited everyone to this project, now we can start preparing for the pen test to take place. So from the menu, we're going to access the project's workspace. This is where we can capture and store all of the information we need for the testing to kick off. First, let's start by capturing the test credentials that are going to be required to log into the application we're testing. And we're going to save that. We can see the information's available now for the pen testers. We're also going to upload some information which is going to be required as part of the testing. Great, so now we have all the information we need for testing to take place. So we can move on. So now that we have all the information we need to start this pen test, let's go ahead and inform the project team that we're about to kick off. We can do that by clicking on Send Daily Commencement Email from the menu. And if I click OK, that will send an email to the project team to let them know that I've now started testing. So now that we've informed the project team that we've kicked off testing, let's go ahead and start working through the test cases assigned to the project. If we click on this box down the bottom here, waiting to start, that will take us to the test cases which have been assigned to this project. If you recall, when we set this project up, we selected the OWASP ASVS methodology, which has applied a number of test cases for us pen testers to work through. So as we start testing, we're going to set the first few test cases to testing in progress. So now we're actually going to run away to the application and start performing these tests. And we're going to come back to AttackForge once they're done and now mark these off as testing's now being completed. And we found some vulnerabilities, which we're now going to move into and show you how to start adding vulnerabilities on this project. So as we start working through our test cases, we can see that the status of the project has now changed into testing, and the progress of the project is being calculated based on the test cases. So now let's show you how to start adding vulnerabilities. So we're going to click on Add Vulnerability from the menu. Now AttackForge has a library of approximately 1,300 vulnerabilities for you to choose from. You can also create your own vulnerabilities, which will be available to you. This saves time and effort from copying data from past reports, and it allows you to easily search and select the issue that you need. In this case, let's say we found a reflected cross-site scripting vulnerability. We're going to select that from the library. Now we're going to select the assets that we want to raise this vulnerability against. In this case, we found it in the web application that we're testing. So let's select that. Now we have a CVSS baseline scoring system that's available to us. And if you recall, we set that up when we were creating the project. It has already populated the placeholder values based on the vulnerability tag that's being provided from the library. However, we can override that. So in this case, it may have required a low complexity and no privileges to exploit this vulnerability. Now we can see that it's automatically scored the vulnerability for us. So the next thing we need to do is now add our steps to reproduce or proof of concept. We're going to add as much information here as we can to help the developers understand how to reproduce this vulnerability so they can fix it. We can also add notes as well. Now, these notes will help to add additional information for the developers to understand a bit more context about this vulnerability and the assets that we discovered it in. Keep in mind that the library provides us with information about what this vulnerability is, how it can be exploited or why it's bad, and what we need to do to fix it. So notes is where we can capture additional information at an asset level. Now let's go ahead and save the vulnerability, and we can now start uploading screenshots and evidence to support the finding. So once we've uploaded a screenshot, if we want that screenshot to appear in line in the report, we can go ahead and do that by clicking Add to Steps to Reproduce or using the shorthand syntax. Let's go ahead and save that and see what it looks like. So let's have a look at the vulnerability that we just created. So from the project, if I click on vulnerabilities, and we can see all the vulnerabilities, I'm going to click on the reflected cross-site scripting issue that we just created. And now we can see all the information that's normally presented in the reports, which is also available in the interface. And if we scroll down, we can see all of the information, including the evidence, so the developers can immediately download all of the screenshots and start working through remediation. So let's go back to the project and show you how to now import a vulnerability in AttackForge. So now we're going to import some vulnerabilities from different tools. In this scenario, let's import some vulnerabilities from Nessus. So we're going to click on the menu and then we're going to select Import Vulnerabilities. Now we can see a list of all of the different tools that AttackForge supports. And if we click on the first one, Tenable Nessus, it then asks us to select the Nessus file so we can then pass the information before we import it. So let's go ahead and select the Nessus file that we exported from our Nessus product. And we can see that all the vulnerabilities contained in that file has now been passed and is available for us to import on this project. So in this case, we want to import the critical and high vulnerabilities. So we're going to select that. And now we're going to click on Import Vulnerabilities. So the vulnerabilities have been imported. So now let's go back to the project and see what that looks like. And if we click on Vulnerabilities, now we can see a list of all the vulnerabilities which have now been imported from our Nessus scan. So we've identified a number of different vulnerabilities on this project, and we believe that we can now use them to steal the Batmobile schematics. So now we want to show Lucius Fox how we're able to do that. So we're going to build an attack chain. Now, if we click on attack chains, we can see that we can now start to create a new one. So we're going to go ahead and click Add Attack Chain and start with defining the objective. So the objective for this attack chain is to steal the schematics for the Batmobile. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that in. Next, we're going to start with the starting point as an attacker. Now, in this web application, we were able to register an account on the Bat portal. So we're going to go ahead and enter that in. The next thing we did was perform enumeration. So let's go ahead and add an action. And now for this action, we're going to include that we were performing enumeration against the site. So once we've performed our enumeration, we actually found that the website has a vulnerable, outdated version of PHP, which we're able to exploit for remote code execution. So let's go ahead and enter that into our attack chain. So we're going to select Add Vulnerability, and then we're going to select the vulnerability from the list of identified vulnerabilities on this project. And now we're going to add some context to help explain how we use this vulnerability to steal the Batmobile schematics. So once we were able to exploit this vulnerability, that then allowed us to install a backdoor on the web server. So let's go ahead and select Add Server from the list of available links on this chain. We're now going to select the asset that we want to raise this vulnerability against. In this case, be it the application. And we're going to include some information about what we were doing on this server. In this case, we're installing a backdoor. Now, once we had that backdoor up and running, we achieved our first goal, which at this stage was to compromise the Bat portal server. So we could then start searching for the Batmobile schematics. So let's go ahead and enter that in. So now we're on the internal network for Wayne Enterprises. So we're going to enter and select an internal attacker. And then we're just going to add some other information relating to us performing our attack now to go and steal those schematics. And ultimately, we're going to end up with gaining access to that information. And save that. So if we click Save, we can see that our new attack chain is now available to us. And Lucius can see exactly how an attacker can work through all of the different elements as part of this attack chain to ultimately gain access to the Batmobile schematics. Now, these attack chains are also included in the reports as well. So now we want to tell Lucius Fox all about the vulnerabilities we've already found on the project, as well as that new attack chain. So we're going to click on collaboration. And now we have the option to establish a private channel in Slack for this project, as well as Discord. If we click on Discord as an example, it then allows us to enter in the information to create a new private channel on your own Discord server. So we just had a good chat with Lucius Fox on Discord, and he mentioned that he wants me to export the vulnerabilities to Jira so that developers can start working on remediation. So we're going to click on the export button, and we can see a list of all the different options that we support. And we're going to click on Atlassian Jira. Now we can enter in the connection details to the project that we want to export these vulnerabilities to. And we can also select which vulnerabilities we'd like to export. AttackForge supports not only the export, but bidirectional syncing as well. So you can ensure that any information from the developers is also captured and stored in AttackForge to help with the retest. So now that we've exported the vulnerabilities, let's download an on-demand report to see what the report looks like. If we click on PDF, the report will be generated for us. Let's go ahead and open that up. Now the reports are timestamped, so we know when they were generated, and there's a table of contents to help. The exec summary tells us about unique vulnerabilities and progress of the testing as well. There's some information about 0 days and easily exploitable vulnerabilities, and a testing summary, which gives us a breakdown of vulnerabilities across different ratings, as well as progress on the project, also what was tested and who was on the project team. We can see a list of the vulnerabilities and whether they've been fixed or not fixed. And we also have the attack chains, so the one that we created for stealing schematics from the Batmobile. Now the vulnerabilities themselves have all of the traditional information: descriptions, attack scenarios, recommendations. So as we can see, if we also have a look at the affected assets, for every asset that has this vulnerability, it will also show us the notes, proof of concepts with the inline screenshots as well. Now let's generate a custom report to see what that looks like. So now we're going to create a custom report using Report Gen. So we're going to click on Report Gen button down here at the bottom. Now Report Gen works by using the Report Gen tool and combining it with a template, which will be used for styling the report, as well as the data, which will come from the AttackForge JSON export. So let's go ahead and download the tool. And then we're going to download the template. Now let's open up the template file and see what that looks like. Now we can see that the template itself contains all of the information or meta tags, which will map to all of the data on the project. All of the tags are already in the template for you, so it makes it fast and easy to start customizing the report to your preferences. So let's start customizing it. We're going to add our own logo. And now we're going to also make some other changes to the front page. Okay, cool. So once we're happy with our changes, we're going to go ahead and save this template. So now that the template's saved, let's go back to AttackForge and go back to our project. We're going to download the JSON file, which contains all of the reporting data that we're going to merge with our template. So now we have our template, we have our JSON file, and we also have the report gen tool, which is going to combine those two together. So let's open up the report gen tool. And now we select the template, followed by the JSON file. And we have a new report that's been created for us. Let's go ahead and open that up. And now we can see that all of the information for this pen test has now been included in our own custom report. Feel free to adjust the reports to your own requirements. You may have multiple reporting templates for different clients or for different reporting purposes.
Thanks, Phil, for the great demo. Let's recap. We created a project, we invited project team to participate, we populated the workspace with entry criteria data and all logistical information. We ran through the test cases or methodology, and we added and imported some vulnerabilities. We even built an attack chain, how to steal Batmobile schematics, and we created on-the-fly report, and we created a custom report. I think Lucius is going to be pleased. What do you think? Let us know in the chat. Also, in the future, Lucius will be able to track retesting and also export vulnerabilities and synchronize it with from Jira. There are also a ton of other features and workflows in AttackForge for you to explore. That wraps up our brief introduction into AttackForge. Back to you, Phil.
Thanks, Stas. And we also have a support site which is loaded with information and tutorials and videos to help you with using AttackForge. And if you haven't fallen asleep by now, we'd love to hear your questions and feedback in the chat. Thanks again for watching.